Over 60? Discover the 4 incredible carbs you must embrace and 4 hidden dangers to avoid forever. Martha's heart raced as she clicked on the article, her hands trembling slightly. Retirement had not been what she imagined. The chaos of family life had faded, leaving her with a quiet home that echoed her past. Cooking, a once joyful expression of love, had turned into a cryptic puzzle. Her doctor's stern warnings pressed on her mind like an unexpected weight. How could she savor her culinary memories without jeopardizing her health? It felt as though her memories of Sunday roasts and birthday cakes were slipping away from her, replaced by a gnawing concern that she might be losing herself in the process. As she scrolled through vibrant pictures of vibrant dishes in the online community, a rush of nostalgia flooded her senses. Was it possible to celebrate food and health? One post caught her eye, laced with laughter. Carb positivity is where it's at. For a moment, the tension in her chest eased. But with every new dish she considered, the nagging voice of caution crept back, reminding her of the refined carbs she had been avoiding. What if she indulged in something she loved, only to regret it? Martha's fingers hovered over the cart button of ingredients she used to adore, like flour and rice, old friends that now felt like treacherous foes. She was caught in a mental tug-of-war, torn between the thrill of experimentation and the dread of betrayal against her family's long-standing health concerns. She could hear her daughter's voice in her head. "Mom, remember the history of diabetes in our family." The words echoed, amplifying her doubts. Had she spent her whole life making choices for others? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Martha clicked onto the next recipe, but the anticipation had turned sour. Enter Chef Jason, a local guiding light who spoke of joy in every bite, pushing her to embrace flavors she had shelved away. The budding excitement felt liberating, but each burst of inspiration was undercut by the echo of stern faces at family gatherings. How could she assert her own joy in the kitchen when it could upset her loved ones? Just when she felt like she was gaining ground, an alarming call from her doctor shattered her delicate balance. "You need to take this seriously, Martha. It's not just about the carbs, it's about living with intention." The weight of those words pressed heavily against her ribs, suffocating her newfound sense of self. How could she navigate this new culinary journey when her health could define her future? Standing there, spatula in hand, the kitchen felt like a battleground. Was she being selfish for pursuing pleasure in her meals, or would her newfound identity be a gift to her family? The tension crackled in the air, her soul wrestling with a fear that isolation might be the only outcome of her choices. What if she chose wrong? With each stirring of the pot, Martha felt the precarious balance of her heart and health shifting beneath her. The decisions loomed larger than ingredients. Could she truly bridge her old life with this new, vibrant version of herself? Martha stood frozen, spatula still in hand, staring at the array of ingredients on her kitchen counter. Each one represented not just a dish, but also a memory, an emotional weight she had carried for years. How could she embrace the idea of cooking once more when every decision felt laden with peril? The allure of new recipes and the vibrant images online provided an escape, but they also left her haunted by her past. She closed her eyes, letting the silence of the home wash over her like a wave. The conflicts in her mind whirled. The joy of food versus the need for caution, nostalgia against progress. With a sharp breath, she grasped the spatula tighter, as if it were a lifeline. Could she really reclaim her kitchen as a space of creativity while minding her health? Martha remembered how she'd once dazzled her family with her cooking, holiday feasts that became traditions, baked goods that filled their hearts. But would those moments be replaced by a shadow of guilt if she went too far? The thought was suffocating. She wondered, what if her family needed her to be happy, to find joy in her culinary pursuits as much as they needed her to prioritize health? Reopening her eyes, she revisited that article about the 4 carbs to embrace, alongside the hidden dangers. There was something tantalizing about exploring grains she had sidestepped: quinoa, farro, sweet potatoes. Potato salad, a staple in family gatherings, seemed like a barren land of restriction rather than an avenue for innovation. Yet, what if it could evolve into something vibrant and flavorful without sacrificing health? Inspiration flickered, igniting a thought. Perhaps her very act of cooking could become an experiment, an evolution instead of a regression. She pictured herself at her kitchen island, preparing her own take on those beloved dishes. However altered, they could resonate with her family's fears and her desires. What if she could introduce health-boosting alternatives, bridging tradition with a modern understanding of nutrition? The thought spiraled, and Martha began jotting down ideas on a small notepad. A savory sweet potato casserole with a sprinkle of cinnamon. That could replace the traditional creamy potatoes. Whole wheat tortillas for enchiladas made with lean chicken and an explosion of spices, rather than the heavy sauces she had relied on for years. "I can do this," she murmured, adrenaline coursing through her veins. As the excitement built, Martha also felt a twinge of disbelief. Yet she knew the first step would require more than just an adventurous heart. It demanded a commitment to both her health and her culinary identity. This wasn't merely a kitchen change, it was a redirection of her essence. Could she invite her family to be part of this journey? The thought intrigued her. Conversations around a dinner table had often felt more like confrontational discussions than moments of connection. If she invited them into her culinary trials, would they not see her intent? What if she illuminated the path forward together? With renewed determination, she set her mind on the layering of flavors that spoke of love, health, and boldness. The task wouldn't be easy, but it would be hers, crafted from both her memories and aspirations. Her heart raced as she visualized the future family gathering, laughter ringing through a home resounding with acceptance and understanding. She envisioned herself presenting them with her new creations, watching their faces light up at the unexpected flavors. But then a new question arose. Would they embrace this change, or would resistance awaken the ghosts of the past? The thought sent a shiver down her spine, and the uncertainty tightened its grip once again. Taking a deep breath, Martha contemplated her next steps. As she cradled the notepad in her hands, she could already sense her pathway unfolding, filled with risks, but undeniably her own. It was a path fraught with tension, navigating love and fear, tradition and change. The moment to face her family loomed ever closer, but could she find the courage to challenge their expectations while staying true to herself? The kitchen was no longer just a battleground. It was the beginning of a discovery, both of flavors and identity. With a calculated breath, Martha resolved to face dinner with her new creations, bracing herself for whatever reaction awaited. Would this be the turning point she sought? The moment of truth was approaching, and she could only hope that the flavors she had idolized for years would finally converge with the woman she was ready to become. Martha stood at her kitchen island, her notepad filled with sketches of meals that would challenge both her traditions and her family's expectations. Each item represented a delicate balance between honoring the past and forging ahead. Her heart pounded with a mix of excitement and trepidation. Was she truly ready to present this new vision of food? As she scanned the countertops, she realized the eggplant sitting in the corner could be the perfect pivot in her next dish, a roasted eggplant dip paired with whole grain pita. It was both familiar and forward-thinking. She could already imagine the laughter that could erupt around the table over unexpected flavors. Martha felt lighter as her doubts eased, but she knew that even in culinary creativity, shadows always seemed to linger. Her mind drifted back to recent conversations with her family. They had grown accustomed to certain rhythms at the dinner table, comforting, predictable rhythms that she had orchestrated. How would they react when she introduced change? Just the thought of their reactions sent a chill through her. Would they see her endeavors as a betrayal of heritage, or could they appreciate the evolution? Drawing a deep breath, she turned her attention back to her notepad. It was filled with colorful recipes, but it was also an emerging manifesto of courage. Each page was a testament to her willingness to risk judgment for the sake of health and joy. The stakes felt high, and her commitment felt like a tightrope walk, uncertain yet exhilarating. Determined to make her first culinary presentation a celebration of flavors, she decided to test a few recipes hidden in her note-laden brain before unveiling them. She would invite her family to share in the experience, encouraging them to participate as taste testers and offering them a piece of her journey. This would be a gateway to openness, and she could only hope they'd reciprocate with the same spirit. During her preparations, Martha hit moments of doubt. Stirring the sweet potato casserole, she wondered if she was merely out of touch with what her family truly wanted. Were they longing for the sumptuous, creamy dishes that had filled their plates through the years? Or could they adapt to this new landscape of flavors? The struggle deepened her resolve. She knew she must forge ahead. Inspiration didn't come without discomfort. With each dish she crafted, she found herself lingering longer over her choices. The spices, tasted and tested, not just as a chef, but as a mother, a daughter, and an emotional architect of memories yet to unfold. Cooking became therapeutic, an excavation of her own identity shaped by health and connection. But soon, a voice crept in, echoing years of familial pressure and expectations. What if they didn't enjoy it? What if they rejected her creations as mere substitutions? The weight of uncertainty pressed hard on her shoulders, nearly drowning the optimism that had buoyed her moments before. With one last glance around her vibrant kitchen, Martha committed to her choices. The tapestry of ingredients unspooled. The challenge she faced was not solely about changing their plates, but transforming their collective understanding of what food could embody, a balance of love, health, and connection. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting warm hues across the walls, Martha prepared the dining room. She set the table with care, vivid colors and scents swirling around her, blending the past with her newly radical recipes. Would the celebration take root in their hearts, or would familiarity clench its grip tighter, squashing the possibility for acceptance? Martha took a moment to steel herself. The hour had come. She stood at the edge of a precipice where the only way forward was through that door leading to her family. A glimmer of possibility sparked within her, and she realized she wasn't just bringing forth food, she was offering an invitation to a new beginning. As she approached the door, she heard the laughter of her children from the other side. Would they welcome her bold changes, or would the dinner table once again become a battleground of expectation? The moment to face her family's ingrained preferences was now upon her, thick with the tension of potential transformation. Martha took a deep breath and crossed the threshold. What awaited her on the other side had the power to redefine not just dinner, but the very essence of how they connected as a family. Would tonight's meal evolve into a bridge of understanding, or would it deepen the divide she feared? Walking into the dining room, Martha was enveloped by the infectious laughter of her children, filling her with a warmth that momentarily soothed her anxiety. The familiar scent of her husband's favorite dish wafted from the kitchen, a reminder of the traditions she was challenging. The ornate tablecloth was pressed and pristine, adorned with the family's cherished plates, all symbols of continuity that now felt weighted with expectation. She paused in the doorway, surveying the scene. There was comfort in their routine, but there was also stagnation. It had grown predictable, yet she had clung to it as an anchor. The joy of new flavor combinations began to buzz in her mind like a chorus, urging her to step closer. "Mom, you're finally here," her youngest called, bouncing on their chair. Martha plastered a smile across her face, feeling the pressure increase in her chest. It wasn't just about the food anymore. It was about courage, connection, and her own desire for growth that needed to be carried through the dinner. "Martha, let's dig in," her husband encouraged, blissfully unaware of the turmoil brewing beneath the surface. They clinked glasses, and she felt a moment of levity spill over before the gravity of her intention settled in. How could she showcase her principles without them feeling attacked or abandoned? With a swift motion, she placed the roasted eggplant dip and warm pita on the table, watching closely for reactions, her heart racing. Would they understand? Flashes of uncertainty danced in her mind, but she stepped forward. "I thought we could try something different tonight," she announced lightly, hoping to mitigate any defensiveness. The faces around the table momentarily froze, marked by confusion before the tension morphed into curiosity. Her eldest reached for the pita, dipping it into the creamy blend. The silence hovered for a beat too long. "It's interesting," they said, chewing with an exaggerated slowness that felt maddening. Martha's stomach nodded. Would they deem it an experiment gone awry? Perhaps the rich, comforting dishes they were used to were irreproachable and unbreakable. "Interesting? You mean good, right?" she asked, grinning despite the tension. Fragments of doubt echoed in her mind. How could she turn this moment into an opportunity rather than a source of division? "I mean, it's not bad, Mom, just different," her oldest conceded, barely lifting their eyes from the plate. Martha recognized this concession as a call for patience and understanding, signaling that the transition might not be as stark as she feared. "Different is good," Martha replied, her voice stronger. "Food can tell stories beyond what we already know. It's not just about what was passed down, it's about figuring out who we are now." She felt the realization settle within her, the thought crystallizing as she spoke. Martha's resolve hardened. The evening was a mere beginning. She couldn't expect her family to change overnight. She'd take this one experiment as a step toward a broader journey, hoping gradually to coax her family into new territory that might redefine their culinary experiences. With lingering tension, laughter issued forth again, and it washed over her like a gentle tide, gradually easing her fears. They might just embrace this exploration of flavors. Even if reluctantly at first, this opening might yield new discussions, forged by disparate tastes and collective memories. Yet the conversation had shifted once more. "I wonder what's in that casserole," her husband mused, redirecting attention to the sweet potato dish. The jeering questions that followed burst forth lightheartedly, but Martha's mind flickered back to her notebooks filled with revolutionary ideas yet to be unleashed. Creativity fought against fear, each page a challenge in its own right. As she glanced at her family, she understood the journey wouldn't merely be about food. It would evolve into a dialogue of acceptance and growth. Could she equip her loved ones to explore this journey with her? The spark within her felt ready to illuminate this path, but she would have to lead with both compassion and boldness. As they tasted her creations, the warmth of their reactions fed her determination. Still, doubt loomed. A haunting question flickered at the forefront. How far would she have to go this time to ensure not only acceptance, but genuine appreciation? Could they accommodate this change, or would her risks push them away? The meal moved forward.
But in that moment of warmth and unexpected laughter, Martha understood she was no longer just a chef. She was an architect of change, navigating uncharted territory. What would it take to balance her vision with maintaining familial bonds? She could feel every question layering her resolve, urging her to dig deeper. As the evening wound down, she realized another milestone awaited. Her next bold dish would emerge from the depths of her creative spirit. Could the subsequent meal, crafted with the murmurs of doubts echoing behind her, unlock new dimensions within her family? The next morning dawned with a soft light filtering through the kitchen windows, casting a glow on the imperfectly stacked plates from last night's dinner. Martha stood by the counter, staring at the remnants of her experiment. Half-empty bowls and scattered crumbs bore witness to both her triumphs and anxieties. Today, she knew, would be the day she would take further action to push her family's culinary boundaries, and perhaps her own. Mind racing, she pulled out her notebook filled with sketches and recipes that mirrored her inner journey. Each recipe was a stepping stone, a bridge toward a transformation she yearned to ignite within her household. The notion of introducing them to flavors from around the world excited her, but with it came a flicker of doubt. Would her family feel as staunchly about these new dishes as they did about their tried and true favorites? What if they resisted again? Martha pressed her palms against the counter, grounding herself as she recalled their reactions from last night. Interesting and different lingered in her mind as validation, but would that be enough? She opened the notebook, scanning past ideas: Ethiopian stews, spicy pad thai, and fragrant Moroccan tagines. Each recipe had been selected not just for its flavor, but for what it represented: cultures, stories, and the ability to reshape identity. It dawned on her that the food was a conduit for dialogue, a way to instigate conversations about acceptance and broadened perspectives. Determined to foster those dialogues, she settled on a dish that had always captured her imagination: Vietnamese pho. With each slice of ginger and sprig of basil, she envisioned the aroma infusing the air and invoking curiosity. But first, she would have to tackle a hurdle: her husband's apprehension towards unknown ingredients. By mid-afternoon, the preparations began. Martha diced and minced with fervor, the sounds of slicing mingling with her racing thoughts. Could this dish extend beyond mere taste to develop a deeper connection with her family? Would this encourage her children to embrace cultural diversity or unleash resistance? Her children returned home, their chatter filling the space. At first, they seemed absorbed by their activities, but then the savory aroma wafted through the air. One by one, they meandered toward the kitchen, their curiosity piqued. Martha focused on their reactions, assessing each flicker of interest or skepticism, weighing them against her deep-rooted desire for acceptance. "Mom, what's for dinner?" her youngest asked, eyes wide with excitement. It felt like a sign of hope, chaotic energy of playfulness merging with an appetite for discovery. "I'm making pho tart." Martha replied with a buoyancy she tried to summon from within, half hoping the name alone would draw them in. "Pho? What's that?" her eldest asked, tilting their head, a curious expression taking shape. In that moment, Martha felt the promise of a shift, a small window of opportunity to engage them in conversation about flavors and cultural narratives. As the evening approached, the dining room began to transform from a simple gathering space to an arena rife with potential. She set the table differently this time, with chopsticks and spoons, laying out fresh bean sprouts and lime wedges to entice participation. "Okay, team, this is our first pho night. Let's make it fun. Build your own bowls," she announced, attempting to infuse her voice with enthusiasm, while inside uncertainty clawed at her resolve. Doubt was a constant companion, whispering fears of rejection. Martha took a breath, embracing anxiety as part of the creative process. Each face that peeked into the pot was an experiment of its own, a mix of anticipation wrapped in familiar love. As the family gathered, she noticed her husband eyeing the steaming broth cautiously. This moment felt monumental. Would they dive in or recoil at the unfamiliar? Martha's heart raced, ready for whatever outcome awaited them. The atmosphere shifted, rich with vibrant scents, and the sound of laughter blending with apprehension as each family member began to construct their bowls. Anxiety coursed through her, weaving tightly into anticipation. But as they tasted, the flavor of her heart spilled from the bowls, rich and seasoned with stories waiting to unfurl. Would they celebrate her efforts or shy away, labeling it another interesting experience? Martha knew she teetered on the edge of something transformative. The evening opened vast possibilities. If she could navigate this terrain, she might unlock a deeper understanding of each other. But could this pursuit lead to acceptance or fracture the foundations of their bond? In this moment of culinary creation, the question loomed larger. Would she find the courage to push beyond familial boundaries and embrace what it truly meant to expand their horizons? As the conversation swirled around the table, she could feel butterflies of hope and trepidation thrumming within her. Tonight was merely a revelation waiting to happen, but to where would it lead? The first few moments after the last shred of beef vanished were electric. Silence enveloped the dining room, each family member's expression a canvas painted with curiosity and surprise. Martha sat back, unsure whether to feel triumphant or anxious. Had they really enjoyed the foe, or were they merely digesting their feelings, the flavors swirling around their tongues mixing with the notion of change? Her husband, Mark, cleared his throat, breaking the stillness. "Well, that was different," he said, a hint of skepticism lacing his words. "I didn't think I'd ever want to eat something like that."
A twinge of frustration pierced through Martha. It felt like a step forward for their dinner culture, yet here was Mark, unwittingly throwing cold water on a spark she had carefully ignited. "Different can be good, you know," she countered lightly, forcing a smile to mask her disappointment. "Yeah," her youngest chimed in, still focused on her now empty bowl. "I liked the bean sprouts. Can we have more next time?" That was it. It was a small victory, but it stirred something in Martha. The children, though sometimes resistant, had tasted the difference and were asking for more. This glimmer of enthusiasm fueled her determination. If they were willing to explore now, could she dare to hope that they might embrace even more complex flavors in the future? As the conversation flowed, she turned her attention to the future. Tonight had been one step, but that meant navigating numerous other hurdles in the weeks to come. Her mind darted back to the recipes waiting in her notebook. How pressing it was to follow through on this journey she'd initiated. But she was also keenly aware of the invisible barrier Mark had around his expectations. Perhaps it wasn't just about the food. Shifting the culinary culture of her household required a deeper, more personal approach. Martha's gaze drifted to an uneaten bowl of faux broth. It was not merely a dish. It was a vessel for deeper conversations, a potential bridge to shared experiences. She needed to communicate that with Mark. That the blending of flavors symbolized something much larger than dinner. It represented integration, dialogue, and acceptance of the unfamiliar. Taking a deep breath, she decided to broach the topic. "Mark, what did you think about the broth? It was a little different from what we're used to, right?" The question hung in the air, an invitation to open dialogue. He looked pensively at the table, fingers tracing the rim of his bowl. "I guess it was flavorful, but I'm just not sure how I feel about ingredients I can't pronounce." "That's okay," she replied carefully, unfurling a plan in her mind. "Maybe next time we can pick the recipes together. I could explain more about where each ingredient comes from and its purpose."
The idea seemed to resonate with him, his brow furrowing as if he were contemplating the possibility of familiarizing himself with the unknown. "Yeah, I'd be willing to try that," he conceded slowly, but Martha noticed the doubt still clouding his expression. It wasn't enough. She needed to probe deeper. With the remnants of dinner still lingering in the room, Martha seized the moment. "It's about more than just the food, isn't it? It's like we can learn about cultures, build understanding, and share experiences through flavors. Making these meals can help us grow together." She could sense Mark weighing her words. There was still a hesitance in his demeanor, but slowly the rigidity began to soften. "I guess you're right," he finally stated, a hint of acceptance easing through his voice. Martha felt a rush of gratitude and excitement. Perhaps tonight was not simply about a meal. It was the first brick laid on a long and winding road of exploration they could traverse as a family. But just as elation filled her chest, it was countered with the voice of doubt whispering in her mind. What if he still resisted the next time? As the evening unfolded, Martha's thoughts shifted continuously between hope and uncertainty. She could feel the weight of anticipation grasping her. This connection to her family was something worth nurturing. The readiness to delve into their culinary experiment together felt momentous, but could they sustain it? Would they all take the plunge into the unknown, or would they retreat once more when confronted by more intimidating flavors? With a fierce glimmer of determination, she decided that she'd incorporate elements of their favorite meals into future dishes. Each night might intensify their collaborative journey, allowing her to gradually introduce exotic flavors in a context they loved. But as she mentally projected scenarios of recipe experimentation, a cold shiver shot through her. Not everyone shared her passion for culinary adventure. The looming question returned, heavy on her heart. Was she brave enough to challenge her family's comfort zones time and again without alienating them? With every passing moment, it became increasingly clear that she must not only push the boundaries of their meals, but challenge herself to embrace whatever may come next. As the uneaten remnants lingered around them, Martha knew that the next meal held the potential for change, but also the threat of retreat. What awaited her at their next dining experience? Would it be a taste of acceptance or a struggle against tradition? As the days passed, Martha immersed herself in the culinary world. Her notebook filled with a medley of new recipes and ideas. She marked off each page as she bravely ventured into a variety of cultural cuisines, her excitement building as she envisioned the flavors that could potentially grace their dining table. Each dish she planned embodied her resolve, a gentle rebellion against stagnation, both in food and in her family's expanding horizons. On a particularly crisp autumn morning, filled with the scents of cinnamon and maple wafting in from the neighbor's kitchen, Martha decided to stir the pot, literally and figuratively. Today, she would make a version of ratatouille, interspersing the traditional with her twist of spicy harissa. With her apron tied snugly, she entered the kitchen and rooted through the pantry for vegetables. The familiar sounds of laughter from the living room buzzed like an encouragement, pushing her to pursue her culinary vision. She envisioned how vibrant colors would catch Mark's eye. Perhaps the dish's beauty would soften his resistance. While slicing the eggplant, a question whispered through her mind. Was Mark truly ready for this leap? She understood that food was not just nourishment. It was emotional, laden with memories, and rooted in comfort zones. Each time she dipped her knife into produce, it echoed the profound challenge ahead. It wasn't just food she was handling, but the very fabric of their family culture. As the rich aroma of sautéing vegetables filled the air, she decided it was time to recruit the kids to help. She called them into the kitchen, where they entered with unabashed curiosity. "Can we help?" her youngest asked, wiping his hands on his shirt in excitement. The spark in their eyes gave her a newfound sense of hope. "Yes, let's add the harissa together," she said.
There was an unspoken bond forming in that small kitchen atop the tiled floor. This shared endeavor encapsulating the values she'd always wanted them to embrace: collaboration, discovery, and a pinch of bravery. But with each stir and toss of the spoon, a sense of doubt began to creep back in. What if Mark's skepticism returned with a vengeance? Would this radical spin on a classic dish send him right back into his shell? When dinner time approached, a palpable tension lit up the room. Martha laid out the colorful ratatouille and positioned the warm, crusty bread alongside it. Each plate served was a combination of steps forward and the nagging fear of a potential setback. Now the moment of truth had arrived. Mark walked in, his casual demeanor shrouded in an invisible cloud of skepticism as he surveyed the table. A frown shadowed his brow, the apprehension coiling tightly around her resolve. A brief, almost imperceptible pause washed over the room, and the silence pressed down heavily on her chest. What happened to our old favorites? Mark's voice cut through, sharp and disorienting. Martha's heart thumped loudly, the words getting stuck in her throat. "It's a twist on ratatouille, a blend of vegetables and spices," she finally managed to say, softening her tone, feeling the need to invite him into understanding instead of challenging him outright. "Spices? You mean like that spicy stuff?" Doubt threaded through his words. "Yes, but it's balanced with fresh vegetables. Just try it, please." The entreaty hung in the air, a combination of hope and desperation. She watched as Mark took a tentative bite, chewing deliberately, as if weighing his words. The silence was deafening, every second amplifying the tension in her chest. She could see the storm behind his eyes, a conflict brewing between tradition and the unfolding promise of familiar flavors enhanced with a bold twist. How long could she hold that space for him before the unease morphed into rejection? What if she had miscalculated entirely this time? His expression was inscrutable as he took another forkful, and for a heartbeat, it felt as though the world had paused. She braced herself, longing for an affirmation, yet preparing for a backlash. "Okay, the spices? Not bad," he finally muttered, a tentative smile flickering at the edges of his mouth, perhaps even a little surprised. Though it was a small concession, a flicker of acceptance ignited within her. Martha felt herself exhale, the pressure lifting slightly as hope wrapped around her like the warmth of the meal. But as she watched Mark take another bite, the uncertainty lingered. Would next time be as welcoming, or would the comfort of what they knew extinguish her efforts? The battle for culinary exploration had only just begun, and in that moment of fragile victory, Martha realized that the stakes were even higher than she had anticipated. What else would she be willing to introduce, and at what cost? Her resolve deepened. To ignite a path of cultural discovery, she needed to arm herself with understanding and strategy. Deep within her, a burning question simmered. How far was she willing to go? What other ingredients could she possibly stir into their lives to fortify their connection? With every new recipe awaited, the journey loomed larger than just meals. It was about mastering the art of navigating change. And as remnants of dinner clung to their hearts, she knew that with daring might come deep rewards, or potential heartbreak. One thing was certain, though: the splash of harissa had only just begun to tint her family's palate. What challenges lay ahead as she pushed deeper into unfamiliar territory? Would she find a way to taste triumph, or would she be met with the indulgence of comfort's embrace? With the taste of tentative victory lingering in the air, Martha sat at the dining table, her thoughts racing as her family savored the meal. The shift she had started felt momentous, but she knew this was just the first step. Doubts stirred within her. Would Mark and the kids continue to embrace her culinary journey? Would they resist the urge to retreat back to their familiar favorites? Martha's mind spiraled with questions as the evening transitioned into night. She began to ponder her past.
How easy it was to prepare the tried-and-true recipes that had filled their home with warmth for years. But every time she stood in the kitchen, she could almost feel the pressure of tradition weighing down the air. It demanded the same choices be made, over and over again. She recognized now that what she deemed a stir had opened floodgates to possibilities unimaginable only a few weeks prior. As the last plate was cleared, Martha gathered her resolve. It was clear that the journey ahead would challenge not only her culinary skills, but would also test her resilience as a mother and a partner. With Mark's tentative acceptance of the new recipe still echoing in her heart, she sensed an opportunity to introduce more than just food. What did food represent? Connection, learning, and exploration. The next morning, she had a revelation. While cooking was a start, perhaps the key lay in encouraging her family to engage with their own food experiences. With a sudden impulse, she opened her notebook again, no longer documenting just recipes, but transforming it into a space for dialogue, laughter, and shared discovery. She envisioned each page becoming an interactive experience, featuring space for Mark to jot down his thoughts and notes about flavors he enjoyed, or places he once visited, memories tied to specific meals. "Martha?" Mark's voice interrupted her thoughts as he peered over her shoulder, bewilderment etched on his face. "What are you doing?" Her cheeks warmed slightly as she turned to address him. "I want to make our meals a conversation. We can use this notebook to explore different cuisines together, and you can help me decide what to try next." "Could we also include things we want to eat again?" he asked, the hint of excitement flickering in his words. "Absolutely. It'll be our food journey." Encouraged by his response, she began listing ideas, cuisines they could explore, and flavors they could experience together. Each new entry felt like a promise, a shared commitment to broaden their horizons. The thought thrilled her, each meal moving beyond mere sustenance into a celebration of family connection. The following week, while Martha rummaged through the pantry, her youngest son rushed into the kitchen, clutching a request. "Can we try tacos a different way this time?" he asked, echoing her pioneering spirit. His enthusiasm buoyed her spirit, igniting a spark of ambition directed inward. "Of course, what kind do you have in mind?" As they collaborated on their taco dinner, Martha realized that these exchanges were more than mere adaptations. They were about encouraging her children to voice their opinions, nurturing their creativity. Each flavorful transformation was becoming a catalyst for growth, teaching them to embrace change and the unknown. But even as the atmosphere in the kitchen became buoyant, an undercurrent of tension bubbled within Martha. Would they accept the adventurous spirit she yearned to instill in them? Could she maintain the momentum without reverting to their past comfort foods? Compassion lingered in her heart, yet the knowledge that resistance was still an ever-present possibility loomed. As they sat down to the newly imagined taco platter, adorned with both unique and familiar ingredients, Martha felt her heart race. The first bites were crucial. She held her breath, anxious for their feedback. "Yummy!" her youngest announced, fish-shaped taco in hand, oblivious to his mother's mounting tension. Mark chewed thoughtfully, a pensive look on his face. She couldn't read him, the stillness in his demeanor a veil cloaking his thoughts. And then it hit her. Doubt could not only come from Mark, but also from herself. What if this venture into the diverse essence of food continued to foster anxiety? The revelation thrust her into an intense realization. This expedition demanded courage and vulnerability. She had to balance the tension between driving change and allowing them to mold the experience within their comfort. As Mark finally offered a tentative nod, acknowledging the mixing of flavors, they shared a moment that felt monumental. Yet, within that tension, a question ignited in her heart. How far would she be willing to embrace vulnerability in her family's culinary journey to achieve genuine connection? With every new ingredient they explored, the stakes felt weightier, but with it, the joy of discovery glimmered on the horizon.
Would she find the fortitude to keep pushing forward, or would she hesitate at the edge of her fears? Amidst the delicious chaos, one truth became clearer than ever. Changes in the kitchen mirrored changes in life itself. And soon, Martha would have to confront her greatest challenge yet. What would be required to delve even deeper into family revelations, beyond food, as they navigated the transition of taste? The scent of spices lingered in the air, a promising testament to Martha's evolving relationship with food. Yet, with every meal grew her awareness of the challenge that lay not just in the act of cooking, but in the deeper intention behind it. The following week, after another successful meal where laughter bubbled as they concocted a new pasta recipe, Martha began to realize that the notebook transcended its purpose. It was evolving into a living document that captured her family's thoughts and preferences, an embodiment of their tastes and experiences that would shape their culinary adventure. One evening on the porch, as dusk settled around them like a cozy blanket, Martha sat with Mark, who was absent-mindedly flipping through the pages filled with their musings. "You know, this really reminds me of family dinners when I was a kid," he said, a hint of nostalgia in his voice. "What do you remember?" she prompted, hoping to draw out deeper conversations linked to their food narratives. "There was this—" Mark paused, his brow furrowing in concentration, as a smile crept onto his lips. "My grandmother used to make this incredible lasagna, layered with the most delicious cheeses." "Let's recreate that memory," Martha suggested, her heart racing at the thought of combining individual histories with their ongoing exploration. "I'll help you figure out what to include. We can make it our own." There was silence hanging between them, laden with the weight of expectation. Mark shifted slightly. "I guess I'm just worried that it won't be as good as I remember." Martha sensed the flicker of doubt in him, the fear of disappointment. Here they were, two people trying to forge new experiences while grappling with the pull of nostalgia. "What if we embrace the imperfections?" she offered, a spark igniting within her. "The beauty lies in our unique spin. Plus, it's about creating new memories together." Mark gave a short laugh, but his reluctance was palpable. She felt a familiar pang of concern. The stakes were growing. The possibility of failing to recreate something cherished added pressure, a negotiation between raw vulnerability and the longing for connection. As the lasagna preparation unfolded in their kitchen over the next few days, Martha observed the conversations deepening, not just about ingredients, but about life, loss, and the importance of family ties. This was, perhaps, teaching her more about vulnerability than she anticipated. With each layer added, sharp memories stabbed at her heart. She pondered on her own shortcomings, even in this fresh endeavor. Was she imposing too much of her newfound enthusiasm upon her family, risking their comfort for her need to explore? They gathered together, a sea of anticipation and nervous energy, the lasagna finally complete. Each bite of rich flavors and memories came together, building connections that went beyond their culinary adventure. And yet, amidst the accolades, an unsettling realization washed over her. This endeavor was a double-edged sword. It was a journey toward exploration, but also toward revelation of her fears regarding the acceptance of change in her family. Feeling the weight of her thoughts, Martha excused herself for a moment, retreating to her page-filled notebook as she collected herself. "Can I write my fears?" she murmured to herself, catching a glimpse of her guarded nature in the blur of ink. Could she acknowledge both the joy of experimentation and the dread of alienation simultaneously? Internal conflict raged within her as she traced the lines of ink. Her journey had birthed an awareness, but what of that awareness? What could she do with it? Would sharing those raw emotions fracture or strengthen their bond? With determination, she decided not to shy away from those revelations. Martha recognized that, much like their meals, her journey required components of both tension and release. She would weave honesty into their story. This might be the key to deeper connections, reshaping the very essence of how they experienced food together.
The next morning, while the kids bickered playfully in the background, the vision of culminating fears and newfound confidence resonated within her. She returned to the table, purpose clear and resolve strong. "Hey gang," she called out, her voice steady. "I think it's time we create a new tradition. Let's each share what we love most about the meals we've made together, our favorite moments, our fears. I want you all to be a part of this journey, not just as tasters, but as contributors." Mark's eyes met hers, a blend of readiness and uncertainty. Would they be ready for such vulnerability? Martha took a deep breath, feeling the tremors of anticipation again within her. The moment had arrived. Would they embrace this challenge together, or would fear of vulnerability hold them in place? The stakes had never felt higher, and she stood at the threshold of potential transformation, not just for her culinary journey, but for the very fabric of their family. As she faced her loved ones, a powerful question lingered in the air. Would they seize the opportunity to delve deeper into their culinary narratives, or would they retreat, clinging to the comfort of their familiar favorites? Martha stood at the threshold of her kitchen, the lively chatter of her family echoing around her. She felt a rush of nervous anticipation as she prepared to share her latest vision, a family tradition that entwined their culinary journey with personal narratives. Her heart raced. The moment felt crucial. What lay ahead could lift them toward an exhilarating mutual understanding, or push them back into the accommodating comfort of old routines. "Tonight," she said, her voice steady but warm, "we're going to share our favorite moments from the meals we've created together. Let's talk about what we love, what we least expect, and even our fears about trying new things." A wave of realization washed over her as she said those words. This wasn't merely about food. This was about connection, sharing experiences wrapped in flavors. Mark's brow lifted slightly, curious yet apprehensive, while the kids exchanged sly grins. "Really?" her youngest piped up. "We can say what we want, like a food evaluation?" Martha chuckled, the gleam of excitement igniting in her chest. "Absolutely. It's our culinary adventure, and I want you all to be part of it." As the evening unfolded, each family member appeared to wrestle with their initial hesitation, but gradually comfort washed over them. One by one they began to share. Her youngest recounted how he loved the vibrant colors of the ratatouille. The eldest cherished the soft warmth of the lasagna. Martha felt a sense of triumph building within her, punctuated by the honesty in each story. However, as Mark took his turn, Martha sensed the seriousness of his tone. "I really loved trying the pho, but I was scared I wouldn't like something so different. I guess I was afraid of losing what I knew." His words struck her. With a mix of vulnerability and courage, he lifted the veil on his own fears, a sensation she understood too well. "That resonates with me," she admitted. "I've feared that each time I change things, I would lose touch with our family's taste." Mark nodded thoughtfully. "After hearing you share, maybe it's more about growing together and experimenting, rather than abandoning our traditions. But I still feel conflicted. I want to embrace new flavors, but I don't want to lose the essence of our favorites." At that moment, realization dawned on Martha. They were not merely experimenting with food. They were navigating emotions, memories, and shared experiences. This exchange of thoughts was not just a casual meal discussion. It was a potent mixture of hope, fear, vulnerability, and love. Inspired, Martha proposed an idea, her excitement bubbling over. "What if we each take turns choosing dishes or cuisines we want to try and rotate them with our favorite family recipes? This way, we can blend the new with the old." The air sparkled with anticipation. Mark considered her words, a brightness igniting in his eyes. "I'd be on board with that. If we mix in familiar tastes while trying new ingredients, we could have the best of both worlds." Relief flooded Martha as she sensed their bond strengthening, rooted deeply within a mutual commitment to grow together. As they continued the night,
Sharing laughter, fears, and their dreams for future meals, Martha felt a profound connection blossoming around the dinner table. Each bite shared was not just a culinary experience. It was an exploration of their identities as a family. She understood now that tradition could evolve while still honoring the very essence of their family ties. In that illuminating moment, Martha recognized tangible growth in herself. She had stepped beyond boundaries that once confounded her, transforming a challenging culinary landscape into a heartfelt journey of connection. The new tradition enacted a shared language of experimentation that embraced both nostalgia and courage to forge forward. As dessert was served, a whimsical twist on a family favorite, Martha allowed herself to bask in the satisfaction of how far they had come. There was no doubt her family was embracing this risky adventure into the unknown together. Would their kitchen be the birthplace of new combinations, new traditions, and a deeper understanding of one another from here on out? This realization brought with it a renewed sense of confidence. Martha felt empowered to pursue not just culinary experimentation, but also the depth of emotional connections within her family. As they cleaned up after dinner and prepared for the excitement of their next culinary adventure, Martha smiled at the newfound dynamic that instilled a sense of joy. Her heart surged with pride, not just at the food they created, but at the openness they shared. Now, with a concrete plan ahead and heartfelt conversations woven into their everyday lives, Martha's aspirations felt attainable. They were more than just a family. They were a collective of daring individuals, bravely navigating the unpredictable realms of flavor and connection. And she knew without a doubt they would spin even richer stories made from food and heart, inspiring not just dinners, but creating memories filled with love. This was just the beginning of a remarkable journey, and Martha's confidence, alongside the bond with her family, flourished dramatically as she moved towards a future defined by both flavor and heartfelt connection. You need to subscribe now to this channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Whether it's epic culinary escapes or touching family journeys, you won't want to miss these enriching explorations. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, because every click helps bring more heartwarming stories your way. And we want to hear from you. Comment your reactions and theories about this inspiring ending. How has food shaped your connections with loved ones? Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Spread the love and inspiration far and wide.